Islam Dewayne Byfield-Bey. I'm Rhonda Arrington-Bey, and I'm your wife this lifetime. I'm at Whole Foods in Annapolis, Maryland. It's March the 31st, 2019. As a Hebrew Muslim, as a Moorish American, my nationality is Moorish American. I am going to read my oath of amnesty and reconstruction that I affirm to do. I affirm to uphold the Constitution and all its amendments through Moorish American National Bureau of Vital Statistics with Moorish American National Republic. I, Rhonda Renee Arrington-Bey, do solemnly affirm in the presence of Almighty God, Allah, that I must henceforth faithfully support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Union of the States thereunder, and that I must in like manner abide by and faithfully support all acts of Congress passed during the existing rebellion with reference to slaves, so long and so far as not repealed, modified, or held void by decision of the Supreme Court, and that I must in like manner abide by and faithfully support all proclamations of the President made during the existing rebellion, having reference to persons held as slaves, so long and so far as not modified or declared void by decisions of the Supreme Court. So help me Allah. Now, I was going to read something, but I'm going to read this article about the 14th Amendment, if I can find it real quick, being unconstitutional. I think it correlates to what I just read, Dewayne Byfield-Bey, because we are in an existing rebellion. Okay, I'm going to read part of it. It says, there is no 14th Amendment by David Lawrence, U.S. News of World Report. This was in September 27, 1957. But as you know, as of today, there are those that still recognize the 14th Amendment or try to. A mistaken belief, and this was U.S. News of World Report, that there is a valid article in the Constitution known as the 14th Amendment. Okay? It now is responsible for the Supreme Court decision of 1954 and the ensuing controversy over desegregation in the public schools of America. No such amendment was ever legally ratified by 3/4 of the states of the Union as required by the Constitution itself. The so-called 14th Amendment was dubiously proclaimed by the Secretary of State on July the 20th, 1868. The President shared that doubt. There was 37 states in the Union at the time, so ratification by at least 28 was necessary to make the amendment an integral part of the Constitution. Actually, only 21 states legally ratified it, so it failed of ratification. The undisputed record attested by official journals and the unanimous writings of historians establishes these events as occurring in 1867 and 1868. Outside the South, 6 states. Okay, and I'm going to stop there. I just wanted to set this reading up to me reading my oath of amnesty and reconstruction. Okay. Because I'm thankful to Allah, Dewayne Byfield-Bey, that the knowledge that I learned from Moorish American National Republic, the importance of getting back into the constitutional fold. I am thankful and grateful. Islam. Now, Dewayne Byfield-Bey, I am going to read the 13th Amendment with 20 sections. That was ratified at November 18th, 1865 by 3/4 of the several states. And what I am going to do is read the first 7 sections. All persons shall have the right peaceably to assemble and worship God according to the dictates of their own conscience. Section 2. The use of the public press shall not be obstructed, but criminal publications made in one state against the lawful institution of another state shall not be allowed. Section 3. The right of citizens to free and lawful speech and public assembly shall not be denied. Access of citizens to the ballot box should not be obstructed either by civil or military power. The military shall always be subordinate to the existing judicial authority over citizens. I find this very interesting because those that have the science of telepathy, they'll speak around to one another, but they can never speak about it. They'll never come or you will never hear them say about them having the science of telepathy. So once again, this is the 13th Amendment in 20 sections, which is a part of the Constitution of 1787, which in order for these amendments to apply to you, you have to have rights, not privileges. The right of citizens to free and lawful speech and public assembly shall not be denied. Access of citizens to the ballot box shall not be obstructed either by civil or military power. The military shall always be subordinate to the existing judicial authority over citizens. The privilege of the writ habeas corpus shall never be suspended in the presence of the judicial authority. Section 4. The militia of a state or of the United States should not be employed to invade the lawful rights of the people of any of the several states. But the United States shall not be hereby deprived of the right and power to defend and protect its property and rights within the limits of any of the states. Okay, I'm going to stop there at 4 and go to the last part. I was going to do 1 through 7, which it'll probably equal up to 7 amendments. I'm going to start with Section 18. Duties on imports may be imposed for revenue, but shall not the excessive or It says, but shall not be excessive or prohibitory in amount. Section 19. When all of the several states shall have abolished slavery, then and thereafter slavery or involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, shall never be established or tolerated in any of the states or territories of the United States, and they shall be forever free. When I hear spirits irrationally say paid, what are they talking about? But these are usually unclean spirits that have privileges and are being used as slaves to cause harm. Section 20. The provisions of these articles relating to involuntary labor or servitude shall not be altered without the consent of all the states maintaining such servitude. Islam. Because in order for you, and once again, this is correlating to them not being in the constitutional fold. As I said that, someone attacked my genitals, so in a sexual manner. Now, when an unclean spirit attacks your genitals in a sexual manner, it's behaving within its nature to be unclean. That doesn't mean they paid, they just unclean. And in prophecy of many spiritual books, it's prophesied that they are being exterminated or cleansed into something else. They are being cleansed into something else. Okay? And that is true. Islam. Okay, now I'm going to continue in Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13th, the unanimous declaration of the 13th United States of America. When the course of human events, and it took me a while to get that because of how the sequence of events appear. But when you're unclean in spirit, and you're just behaving as what you are forced to do as a slave. Because they are here operating as slaves or used as slaves with privileges, not rights. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the nature God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, and when I said my genitals were attacked in a sexual manner, this is spiritually, okay? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, depriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem more likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dedicate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. Accordingly, all experience have shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And once again, this is the Declaration of Independence, July the 4th, 1776. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attain them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people who relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with mainly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. Once again, this is the Declaration of Independence, July the 4th, 1776. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise. The state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. I'll read that again. He has refused for a long time, after all dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise. Okay. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners. Islam. Let me read that again. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for the purpose of obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges depend on his will alone for the tenure of their office and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. Now this, that statement, going back to naturalization of foreigners, that is in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, in reference to naturalization. What I just read in reference to he has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. That correlates in my thoughts to the Bill of Rights, Islam. Remember right off. Amendment 10. Hopefully I can find it quickly. I might have to continue. Okay. Okay, what my thoughts came to Amendment 3 of the Bill of Rights that was ratified December the 15th, 1791. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house. Okay, and Dewayne Byfield-Bey, I think of spiritually as well as physical. Spiritual as well as physical. We're on a telepathic society. Without the consent, and also your mind, you're dealing with your mind as well. Without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. So let me continue. So it says, he has kept among us, this is once again the Declaration of Independence. July the 4th, 1776. He has kept among us in time of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution. Okay, once again, this is the Declaration of Independence, and they're giving a list of what Great Britain has done. So it says he has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution. All right, Constitution, and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial. So many times I hear spirits speak of going to jail. From punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. If this is in correlation to being the constitutional fold. If you do not have rights and you're being taxed, and you don't have the knowledge, the importance of being in the Constitution, so you are lawfully taxed, then you are being taxed if you don't have the knowledge of this without your consent. Because if you realize, I would hope if you knew the importance of your rights and not privileges, and when you're taxed, because being taxed is lawful, then this is my thought of this. I'm not saying this is what this is in reference to Dewayne Byfield-Bey, but I'm trying to demonstrate how I'm connecting the present to even 1776 of the Declaration of Independence. If you are navigating as chattel property in this country, in a foreign jurisdiction, as the complaints in the Declaration of Independence was stating, a foreign jurisdiction, okay, and you do not have rights, and you are being taxed. How are you being taxed? For imposing taxes on us without consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. Okay, this is also, that statement is connected to the Bill of Rights, December 15th, 1791. Amendment 6, it says, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witness against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witness in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. And that's the Bill of Rights, ratified December 15th in 1791. This is the Declaration of Independence. And the colonies, or the colonists, wrote what they were experiencing. For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. As I read that, someone spoke, and I'm feeling a attack on my genitals in a spiritual manner, sexual manner at Whole Foods, as I read these divine laws of freedom, or these divine laws of history, and also that's leading up to a divine law of freedom. For transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretended offense. If you're not in the constitutional fold, you are vulnerable for a created crime to appear. For abolishing the free systems of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with powers to legislate for us in all case whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and raging war against us. Okay? He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the work of death, desolation and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous hope I said that right, barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens of a civilized nation. Okay, he has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has exercised domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant, and unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them for time to time of attempts by the legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow their usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. Hope I said that right. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other, our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Islam. That's the Declaration of Independence, July the 4th, 1776. All right, gonna stop there at 35 minutes.